And our message today is out of St. Luke chapter 2, starting at verse 1. Shouldn't be a surprise. Same one as last week. Different message though. And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that the whole world should be taxed. And this taxing was first made when Cyrenius was governor of Syria, and all went to be taxed, every one into his own city. And Joseph also went up from Galilee out of the city of Nazareth into Judea, unto the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David, to be taxed with Mary, his espoused wife, being great with child. And so it was while they were there, the days were accomplished that she should be delivered. Now, imagine. You're traveling probably by donkey. Went into town to pay your taxes. Because, well, that's what we all do, right? We pay taxes. And your wife happens to be very pregnant, and she goes into labor. I don't know if he paid his taxes first or after, and it really doesn't matter because guess what? There's no hotel room. It's open. Nothing open. Now you get in this spot, I think of Joseph, and it's like, hey, wait a minute. I got a pregnant wife, and I got no place to put her, and she's just gone into labor. Now how is that going to work? So, and she brought forth her firstborn son, wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. Well, it doesn't sound like great planning. You'd think you'd kind of make sure you got there early enough to make sure you got a room or something, but that point aside, he got there, there's no room. So it's like, okay, well, we're going to move into the manger. we're going to move in with the animals here, all the livestock. Now, in our mind, we think, well, this is some kind of very lousy compromise. And I can't think of any woman that's really going to be excited about giving birth in a stable with a bunch of animals. But this was actually the purpose of God. Now, this might sound funny, but it's like God wanted to be born in the most humble of circumstances. And it doesn't get any more humble than to be born in a stable. Laid in the straw where the animals are eating. It's like, it doesn't get any more humble than that. And God wanted to make sure that it was a humble situation. So he made sure that the rooms were full. He made sure that neither Joseph nor Mary was comfortable with the situation. And now this is where it comes to us. When we accept Jesus, it's usually a circumstance that is less than ideal. But God doesn't care. He'd like to be our first choice, but more often than not, people make him the last choice. He doesn't care as long as he's one of the choices that we make. And he always comes into our life in situations where, you know, when things are good, nobody needs God. Nobody thinks about God. What do I need God for? Things are going good. But things were in a bad situation. This just helped to draw Mary and Joseph closer to God, be better parents. And so it is in our life. And when things get bad, that's exactly when God introduces himself to us. Comes into our life just like Jesus. And here he comes in as a baby. He's just a baby. It's like, there's nothing more helpless than a baby. You got to feed them, you got to change them, you got to take care of them, and it's like, for their size, they take a disproportionate amount of your attention. Because that's just the way they are. And Jesus comes into our life in the same way. He's born into our lives in a small way. But he grows, just like children do. He grows in our life as we tend to him, as we spend time with him, as we talk to him. He gets more and more involved in our lives, and he raises us up. He makes us better people. And he doesn't care if we're the first choice or the last choice, as long as we're one of the choices. that we have and that we make. Because all he needs is one chance. He has no problem proving that we are the best decision, that he's the best decision that we can make in our lives. This is what the message is about today. It is about Jesus being born into our lives. And it makes all the difference. Not some, but all. He changes the way we look at the world. He changes the way we interface with the world. He changes what we want from the world. Because without God, we want the world. And the world has a lot of good things, and the world has a lot of bad things, but we can't see the difference when we don't know Jesus. When we know Jesus, he introduces us to the good things, shows us the things that we need to avoid, and we grow up into the fullness of what he's got for us. And you know what? He's got nothing but good things for us. I'm going to repeat that. God has nothing but good things for us.
Amen.
Now you might say, why is Dustin so happening to me? Why? It's like everything is designed to draw you closer to God. When bad times happen, he just wants you to get closer. That's all. He wants more of you. When the good times come, he wants us to thank him for it. To realize that the blessing has come from him. It didn't come from your boss. It didn't come from your relatives. It came from Jesus. Every blessing we have. I know my wife is a blessing from God in my life. So when I was introduced to her, that was not an accident. That was the purpose of God. And there's no greater blessing that you can have than a mate that's given to you by God. It takes work. Yeah, there's no doubt it takes work. But the closer you get to God, the closer you get to your mate, the more you realize that that person is a reflection of you. And you can look at them and see what they need to work on. You know exactly what you need to work on. And that's the way God works. We're attracted to what we are in other people. And that shows us what we need to work on, and we can continue to grow in God and be better people. So, we see the story here of Jesus being born into the earth, and he's born into our lives exactly the same way. He comes in, it's like you wouldn't even notice it. Who would notice a baby born in a stable in a manger? How can that amount to anything? Well, it did. He's been changing lives ever since. And he's there to change your life, and he's there to change my life. And we celebrate his birth into the world and into our lives this season every year. Amen. And that's my message for today.
Amen.